Welcome to African Diaries.
Thank you for having me, Shayla.
Let's start off with Unchain Our Children. Let's just give an overview of the organization.
Yes, we exist to fight basically any violation of human rights, specifically when it comes to human trafficking, gender based violence, and child abuse. We work on the ground every day in courts, in the field, working alongside government stakeholders, trying to, help the vulnerable people.
Amy, let's look at the current stats in South Africa and Africa. I think we spoke to last year's stats in 2024, looking at that 31% being Africans that are being trafficked, not just across the continent, but the globe at large. What are some of the stats that we are finding for 2025?
Yeah, so stats is a very tricky thing to come by. What you have from 2024 is the most recent one from the Global TIP report, and that comes out every couple of years. So unfortunately, it's really hard to find South African stats specifically. They're just not, we're not taking them well down here. But the Southern Africa stats for sure are, they group us in the sub-Saharan category, and that's what we kind of look at the most.
We were listening to an audio clip that spoke to how some of these syndicates operate. And one thing that was mentioned even in this intro is the reality of a luring of kinds, a promise of a job that does not exist, education that isn't real. What are some of the other drivers and what are some of the other poles that these syndicates are using?
The other one is relationship. So when I train, there are three main reasons people are tricked into trafficking or taken into trafficking, and it's for false promises. Said employment, education, and the third one is relationship.
And Amy, when looking at the problem at hand, I suppose just to dive deeper into what's happening, is that quite a few people are like, but couldn't someone have picked up that this was false, you know,
Yeah.
throughout the process? Perhaps ours is to try and understand what the process looks like from the outside. This potential victim, what they would be going through before the actual abduction.
Yeah, so it's going to be the vulnerable people, right? And we're all vulnerable. Some of us are more vulnerable on the outside, and we can see that a little bit more. But now that everyone is online in all corners of the globe, and people are sharing their vulnerabilities, right? Teenagers are discussing how lonely they are, how much they want a boyfriend. Your young adults are expressing how badly they need a job. People are talking about how bad their divorce is. So we're spilling our vulnerabilities out there for everyone to see. When it comes to the live employment, we see a lot of false job ads. And the way to kind of look at that is the basic rule is if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So when you see offers of paying you in foreign currency or, all expenses paid, or maybe you're not quite qualified for the job, but they're like, it's okay, we'll train you. Those are some big warning signs. Also, simply try to call the business. Are they answering the phone, or does the phone not really go anywhere? Is there a physical address? How does their website look? All these things are when I get asked to help out and investigate something, those are the kind of the basic things I start looking at first. And a lot of times you can catch things there.
Amy, you spoke about vulnerability, right? And we are all vulnerable, but there's some more than others. And so,
Yeah.
who are the primary targets?
So some of your bigger vulnerable groups are going to be your migrants, your ethnic minorities. They don't have the right paperwork maybe to be in the country or where they are, or they're so desperate because they've already migrated from where they are from. So they're a little bit more desperate than others. People with adverse experiences, children with no parents or guardians. But your biggest one by far is financial instability, low income or debt. So it's targeting um, those who are struggling financially.
And Amy, in your investigative research, when looking at the context, and I suppose this could also be a difficult one to sort of analyze, what are the possibilities for a return rate? Right, finding out that this certain individual has been abducted and sort of placed into a trafficking syndicate, and now that extraction process, how often do we see a successful extraction, if you will?
Yeah, I can't give you a percentage on that, but it is very low. Once they are in, and you use the word abducted, and sometimes that does happen, but a lot of times it is through just false promises and the grooming process that these things happen. But unfortunately, once someone is in, it is extremely hard to get them out.
Amy, if it's not abduction, then what is it? Because I can imagine that when you do find out that, listen, this is not the love I signed up for, this is not the job that was promised to me, you want to leave. And so what do we call that end of the experience?
So if grooming is taking place, then they've already gone through this big psychological kind of ordeal that will take months to get them to, and then they're in an abuse cycle. And just like when we look at people, gender-based violence victims or domestic violence victims, and we think, why don't they just leave, right? Like we think that sometimes. And I was an investigator for domestic violence in the States, but the psychological damage is there, and they feel trapped, and they just don't have that spirit to escape anymore. They may not be abducted at first. So sometimes we have this myth of trafficking as people being abducted off the streets, thrown into a van, and locked away in a basement. And all of those do happen. I'm not saying, don't be careful with your children and your loved ones, but realistically for trafficking, less than 4% of cases around the world are from abductions like that. Those are the ones that make the media and the splashes, right? But most of them, we're just getting lied to and